Welcome to Orthodontic Smiles, the podcast designed for all dentists and their staffs who practice orthodontics. This podcast is brought to you by the American Orthodontic Society. Welcome to Orthodontic Smiles podcast. Today we have a very special and different kind of podcast. I'd like to think of this as non-technical, although we may get into some orthodontic angles. We'll be interviewing an orthodontist today, but quite uniquely different from most orthodontists, I think, that here in the United States or elsewhere. We're going to be talking to Commander Corinne Devin, an orthodontist in the United States Navy. Thank you for being on our show, Doctor.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. And I just want to let everyone know on the show that these views are views of mine. They do not reflect the views of the United States Navy.
Well, that's good. We thank you for your service. I mean, right now, I know we're talking via Orthodontic Smiles podcast connections. We're talking to you from Catania, Sicily, where we will ask you some questions and give you an opportunity to talk. And you're a very, very impressive person on paper and verbally talking to you as we have. So I'm anxious to hear your thoughts and give me a little bit of your history. How did you get started in dentistry and then move on to orthodontics? And I know you have a accredited participation in the Iraqi War as well. So I'd like to hear all of that.
Oh, absolutely. Grazie. I got into dentistry. As you could say, I drank the Kool-Aid from my dad. He was a general dentist, and he also served in the Navy for 20 years. And I started working in his office when he retired from the Navy and went into private practice. And I always really enjoyed working with my father, but I wasn't sure if it was my dad or if it was actually dentistry. And when I was in college, my background was communications. However, little did I know that an 8-year-old girl would change all of that. During my summer breaks and spring breaks, when I would come home to visit my parents in Reno, Nevada, when I was with my father coming home from spring break, we would go to elementary schools, and we particularly targeted second graders in elementary schools because that's the age that most kids get their permanent teeth. They have their 6-year-old molars, they have their incisors, they're in that great mixed dentition stage. And we targeted children at schools that came from impoverished families. So usually those are the schools we went to and did free dental exams and provide sealants in mobile dental vans. Well, one day I remembered this little 8-year-old girl who came in who was very scared and very, very nervous to open her mouth. And when she did, her permanent molars were rotted down to the bone. I was in shock. I couldn't believe this. This is Reno, Nevada. I'm not in a third world country. And I could just imagine the pain and discomfort that she was in. And just to think that this is 100% preventable, that was when I knew I wanted to go into dentistry. And so I started taking prereqs of my science courses in college, in summer school, to get in dental school. And I couldn't believe I did. But when I did, I got into UNLV dental school. And then I thought, how am I going to pay for dental school? And I just really admired in my first year when I met professors who had served in the military, whether Army, Air Force, Navy, public health, you name it. They just didn't seem afraid to try things outside the box, be innovative, almost be a MacGyver. And that was really kind of what brought me to the Navy. And I thought, you know what? I can do this. I can wear scrubs, And so I ended up joining the Navy and commissioning in dental school as an ensign. And then I recommissioned again when we graduate as lieutenants, where we come full on board active duty. So
you yes. had to give after, and of course they help you with your tuition.
Oh, they paid for it all. Yeah, the only student loans I had was from my first year dental school, and those were paid many, many years ago. So
I have a grandniece who has just enlisted in the Navy to do the same thing, and she's up in the Boston area. So,
congratulations!
We're wearing your uniform soon, I think.
Oh, she'll be in the she commissioned in the United States Navy.
Yeah, she's in dental school right now. Right.
Oh, congratulations. Well, there's lots of great benefits, and feel free to give her my information because I did a lot of recruiting when I was in San Diego. It's a great scholarship. There's 2 different types.
Commander, can we take a break for just a moment for a word from one of our sponsors?
Hi, my name's Dr. Brad Williams, and I've practiced orthodontics for over 35 years, and over those years, I've had some fantastic teachers like Dr. Bill Wyatt, Dr. Bob Garrity, Dr. Dave Jackson, and many, many more. And I'm honored now to be teaching orthodontics to a whole new generation of general and pediatric dentists. I want to personally invite you to enroll in one of my basic or intermediate hands-on courses through the American Orthodontic Society. We are committed to provide your entire staff the support and training you need to launch orthodontics in your pediatric or general dental practice. And to make the hands-on experience in my classes the best possible, I've partnered with an outstanding and very ethical company called OrthoArch to provide all the orthodontic supplies my students need. When my students start treating patients in their offices, they too will benefit as I have in partnering with OrthoArch for all their orthodontic supply needs. You can contact OrthoArch at www.orthoarch.com. See you in class.
If anyone out there is interested in pursuing it, it's the same in the Army and the Air Force as well as the Navy. Health Professions Science Program, Collegiate Program and Health Professions Scholarship Program. And the main difference between the 2 programs is one pays for all your tuition and books, and the other one pays you as if you, gives you all the benefits as if you were an E5 in the military, but they don't pay for your tuition, but you're accruing time. So there's pros and cons to each program. One program may be better for someone who has a family. They're worried about healthcare insurance, having benefits, having more of a salary, where the other one, for me, it was just me. I'm single, so it made sense to do that route. So I came into the Navy, and as soon as I came in, I did an advanced education in general dentistry fellowship. And it was really great because it gave me a chance to do all those things that you don't get to do in dental school, whether it's lots of dentures or, third molar bony impactions, things that maybe because of the pool of my patients, I didn't have the exposure to. And while I was doing this, I remembered I had a mentor in dental school as well as outside my first year in my Navy, who told me I had the personality of an orthodontist. And I'm scratching my head thinking, what is the personality of an orthodontist?
Yeah, I'd like to know that myself.
I can explain that to you a little bit later in the call. But, I never had braces. I am blessed with a beautiful smile. Thank you, Dad, and, God and genetics for that. And I really didn't know what it meant. And working with some oral surgeons in my program, I really enjoyed, as they call it, the dark side of orthodontics. I was seeing cases that involved orthognathics. Well, before I had a chance to pursue it more, the first thing the Navy has you do after you finish a fellowship program, whether it's a GPR or an AEGD, is they have you go operational, and that's either overseas on a ship or with the Marines. So I had the pleasure of going to Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, and as soon as I got there, I raised my hand and I volunteered to deploy to Iraq, and that was in 2009. So my family had both myself, my brother, and my cousin all gone the same year. We decided to do it to the family all at once.
Wow.
So yes.
And where were you stationed in Iraq?
I was in Al-Assad.
Okay, and then you were treating the troops that were there.
Yes, I was in Kuwait for a little bit, and then when I landed into Iraq, not only did I treat the U.S. Armed Forces, my first patient was an Iraqi security force colonel who wasn't crazy that I was a female, and he wasn't really crazy about that he thought I was someone's 12-year-old daughter. He thought I wasn't even old enough to be a dentist, which I like to take as a compliment, but let me just put it this way. I'm not sure what the translator told him, but I just told him, I'll take care of you. It's either me or my boss. And she was also female as well. But we did. And I was there. There was about 30,000 troops at that time. And it was just my boss and I were the only dentist on the base. So
Did you stay on the base most of the time, or did you get a chance to venture off base?
I was on the base for majority of the time. The Marines, they don't like you to venture too far. They take very, very good care of you as their doc. However, there was a couple times I got to go off base, and that was really exciting. I went to a camp where I met other Iraqi, it was an Iraqi security force base. And for me, that was really fascinating, because for them to see a female with rank and in uniform and being, I guess, saluted and kind of commending is a very foreign concept. So it was a really nice way to kind of bridge that culture gap of something that their society is just not very exposed to. They did treat me very respectful. They knew that I came very educated and that I was there to help. So they actually had a lot of questions. In some ways, I kind of felt like a celebrity that's being mobbed by a bunch of paparazzis on a red carpet, except I'm in a sandbox, I'm wearing fatigues, and I'm probably covered in dirt and sand. So there's no glamour associated with this at all by any means.
We'll talk more about that glamour in a little bit, because that's
okay.
It's going to be a little surprise to our listeners. But go on with your story of Iraq and what you did during that period of time. How long were you deployed?
I was deployed for 7 months, and I was really gone away for about a year total if you count the pre-deployment training, the deployment training itself, and then post-deployment training. The military really does its best to make sure that we are geared up and we are prepared, because not only is it physically preparing, but it's also mentally preparing yourself, because you literally have to put your life on hold. Like, you move things into storage, you settle your affairs, because when you leave the country, you're it's like a 22-hour flight. I'm on the other side of the world. And that is really, really hard. And I am so blessed that I come from a family that is so big into the military and so supportive. Like, my family goes back to the Revolutionary War, like every generation of my family. So I go back 9 generations.
You actually got some scholarship participation just because of that.
I did. It was the Daughters of American Revolution. I got that. That was also thanks to my father, who's a great historian when it comes to service. So yes, I have pictures of my grandfather in Iwo Jima and Tarawan when he served in the Battle of Midway as a Marine. My brother is a submariner. He's enlisted in the Washington State area. My cousin is a pilot for the Army National Guard. He's a major up in the state of Alaska. And my cousin, she is also a pilot. Her and I are the only females in our family that has ever served as far as females. And she is going from active duty reserves over here in Germany. So I'm very excited to have some more family here in Europe, because as much as I love living here, it's hard to be away from home sometimes.
Oh, sure is. And God bless your whole family for their service to our country. Thank you so much. Well, you were in Las Vegas, where you went to dental school. And how did you get your orthodontic degree?
Well, when I actually
was this before you went to Iraq, or after you went to Iraq?
After I went to Iraq. So I was a general dentist for 2 years after my general dentistry fellowship. And one thing I have to say is, I don't put down anyone who goes straight into specialty training right after dental school, but there's something to be said that you need to learn how to be a good general dentist before you can be a specialist, because it gives you a chance not to always be so, focused. It really reminds you of some of the basic concepts, the foundation we have learned in dentistry, and applying that to our specialty training. So when we need to go outside that and recruit for help or ask for, one of our teammates, whether it's our general dentist, our pediatric dentist, or oral surgeon, it keeps you kind of in that mindset, that at the end of the day, we all want the same goal for our patients, and how we get there, we may not be the only person who can do it. We sometimes have to ask for help. And when I was in Iraq, was actually when I applied for orthodontics residency. So in the military, we actually have to get permission before we leave the military to go to any residency program. So I turned in an application to the military, and so it goes to a board. So before anyone in the military, anyone in the dental corps can apply to go to any residency program, you have to pass through a board. It's a very tough board. Usually only a couple people get picked, and that is out of the entire military, Army, Air Force, Navy. So orthodontics is just as competitive in like going from, civilian sector as it is for us in the military. while I was in Iraq, I put in my application and I was very, very grateful. I was one of the people that got selected. And then the next step came up with me applying to residency programs. So you can only imagine doing applications and essays in Iraq where sometimes you don't have electricity, you don't have a printer. And I was very blessed to get into a program in San Antonio, Texas, which is actually the military's tri-service orthodontic residency program through Lackland Air Force Base. So as soon as I got back from deployment, they were looking to send me to Afghanistan, but I actually had to go to school. Orthodontic residency, go figure.
Yeah, go figure that. Now, yes. Is Lackland associated with any of the universities?
It is associated with the Uniformed Services University of Health Science program. So yes, it is associated. The military has its own medical school, and with it, it's got its own university. So it is accredited. It's no different than me going to UT San Antonio or another program where you've got faculty, we get our master's degree, it's accredited, so it meets all the requirements. It may not be as old as some programs, but there's also other programs like UT San Antonio that's younger than us. So the beauty...
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right. The beauty of the program is that the entire program is all military. So one of the perks of the program is, at least for me, I was also paying my time back from dental school while I was at that program because I'm serving a military population. So for some people, it's nice in that regard, and you're still in the system. I did have an option of going to a civilian program, but I always wanted to live in Texas. And when they offered me a spot, especially being in my current situation, I said yes.
Well, yeah, I was trying to figure out how the Navy uses you in orthodontics. Is it for the Navy? Is it for the families? Is it for outside population of bases? How is that used?
So in our residency program, we saw active duty, we saw the children of active duty, we saw retirees, we saw children of retirees. So anyone who has an affiliation with the military, we saw at my residency program. Now, outside of my residency program, it varies in the States. Myself and the other services, we only see active duty in the States. Overseas, we see active duty and then the dependents of active duty. So here in Italy, the only people that I can treat are the service members and their family members. We do have a instruction through Bureau of Medicine, and it says that we can treat other people. It's ranked on priority. However, there's so few of us, and there's so many more people that want braces that we really only can treat active duty and their family members. And still, even then, we can't even treat them all. So it's not fair if we can't treat them all to treat someone further down on the priority list. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. In the base that you are at right now, what was the name of it?
Naval Air Station Sigonella.
Okay, which is in the kind of the southern part of Sicily. Am I right?
It is on the east coast side of Sicily.
East side. Okay. Is your dental clinic on base or is it off base?
It's on base. All our clinics that we treat our military bases are all on military bases, and there's only 20 orthodontists in the Navy in the entire world, just to put things in perspective. And we're only on about 8 or 9 bases in the entire world. So we're not everywhere. So again, so few of us, way more people in the Navy that want braces than what we can provide.
So there's 20 orthodontists in the Navy?
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
That's it. We're a small club.
A lot of people to treat, a lot of families and participants in the Navy. That's
yes,
amazing.
There is.
And you were working in Iraq. You were working on contracted people too, as well.
Yes, I was a general dentist. So my mission in Iraq was really to take care of anyone who was in pain, and also to provide, routine dental care as needed. But that was our focus, is we wanted to make sure that we could get the active duty member, we could take care of them, make sure they could function, and then get them back out to the call of duty. We did have since I was on a fairly large base, one of the largest over in Iraq, we did have some people that would come from other forward operating bases where they didn't have a dentist. And, for some of these guys, they couldn't take showers, they weren't able to have a hot meal. For me, sometimes I felt like I was more than a dentist. I was a psychologist, and I would just lay them back and let them tell their story and hear what they were doing. Because for me, I love what I get to do. And I know that even in an austere environment, I was lucky to have four walls and a roof over my head. And for some of these guys, depending on where they were, sometimes they didn't even have that.
Well, God bless you, and God bless them for sure. Well, let me get into a little bit of technical stuff here, because you are an orthodontist, and I'm curious of where you get your CE training as you continue. I'm curious as to the kind of orthodontics that you do practice, whether it's extraction-based or distalization, whether it's functional. Give me an idea about that.
So as far as me obtaining my continuing education credits, I do pay for myself to come back to the States. Sometimes I am able to get things paid for by the military, but it's just a matter of funding. And my next trip back to the States will be for the 2019 American Association Orthodontics Conference in Los Angeles. So I'm very excited to come back for that. The last conference I came back to was for the SWSO in October. And so for me, I try to pair it with the time I can see family and get CE. And also going to any of these meetings, it's like summer camp reunion to see everyone, as well as kind of see what's new and trending. The other thing that I've been able to do is some of the most wonderful speakers that I've met in my training, Dr. Gerald Sampson, Dr. Jay Bowman, Dr. Sebastian Baumgradel, they have also been sending me CE for me to do over here in Italy, because they understand plane tickets can get quite pricey coming back to the States.
Sure.
And there's been times where the Navy couldn't afford to let me go. So that's how I've been able to maintain my CE. We do have some conferences here in Europe that we do host, but most of them are catered to the general dentist. So sometimes I find, learning about fillings, crowns doesn't always play a role for me to better my orthodontic skills, but that is always available. As far as the kind of orthodontics that I do, in the military, we really don't do Invisalign, just because of the cost associated with it. It's something I've tried to pursue, but right now, the military is all about, saving money. It's your taxpayer dollars at work. So we typically do straightwise appliances. So a lot of us use 3M Unitech, MBT, 22 slot. We do extractions, non-extractions. I've used headgear. I've done some functional appliances. I did my first twin block over here, which seems kind of poetic, being near Germany, where some of these functional appliances came.
Sure.
And we also do a lot of orthodontic surgeries. So in the States, we work primarily to support the oral maxillofacial surgeons, which I really enjoy doing. I've met and learned so much from them. I almost feel like a quarterback on a football team, to be honest, with these guys. And it's incredible what you can do. It's pulling the gene pool. And I really have to say, in the military, I feel we probably do that part more than most I hear about it out in the civilian sector. And we do it really well because we have a team of people. I always tell my patients, you just don't have me. You've got a village supporting you. You just got to make sure that they're on their own team as well.
Absolutely. And I know you're you really do support the STEM program for young women. And I know you've spoken to so many groups in so many places. You traveled to 30 countries as well.
I'm actually up to 50 now, but yes.
50. Wow. Wow. Okay. That overwhelmed me. 50 countries talking to young women who you're trying to get into the sciences.
Absolutely. I was very fortunate that this started in Japan. I was asked to be a keynote speaker for the Department of Defense schools, and that just really has bridged to me speaking now in Germany, United States, and Italy. In fact, my next talk is next Thursday. And what their goal is that we want to encourage that there's sometimes a stigma. People now look at social media as reality, or they see something somewhere on the internet and it's like Google became their new God. Sometimes people would trust something they say, or they would pray about it, and now they just go to the internet to see the truth, when really you want to give them something that is something they can relate to, something that's they can remember. And in a world where we can be so connected digitally, to have that real, authentic raw connection is hard to have. And that's what I hope to have wherever I speak and with the girls I speak with, letting them know I used to be a military brat. I used to grow up on these bases. I used to be made fun of. And what you see today was not handed to me. It was something that I worked really, really hard and was told was not attainable. And I'm here to tell you that anytime someone tells you that it's impossible, once someone does it once and makes it possible, it's no longer impossible.
Well, Commander, what do you say we surprise our listeners all over the world and let you tell them what other title you have that is quite unique and unbelievable as far as I'm concerned, but to have a young woman who is a dentist, an orthodontist, a commander in the U.S. Navy, and a title which you will now broadcast.
I'm actually the reigning 2018 Miss Earth, or as they know in Italy, Miss Terra, 2018, and I have the honor of being a second international title. I got into pageantry. Yes, I'm a beauty queen. I go from scrubs to stilettos. I trade my combat boots for high heels. If you saw me now, you'd see me all dolled up. I was working today at an event, and also last night getting an award for the military. But for me, pageantry was something that I got into as a complete dare in dental school, and never did I dream that I would still be doing it over a decade later. But for me, it really embodies what we value as dentists, as orthodontists, and also what we value in the military. We look at, we're altruistic. We believe in tradition. We believe in service, camaraderie. And that is something that rings true in pageantry. So as Miss Earth, I've really made it my mission and my focus not only to doing environmental preservation, but finding places where you really can make a difference. And for me, that starts with people. If you can help people change and spark that caring is contagious, that really can set the butterfly effect with everyone around you. So yes, Miss Earth.
Wonderful. I encourage our listeners to Google you, Corinne Devin, on the internet and see how a young intellectual like yourself has branched off into being in the Navy and also participating to build lives of young women in science, as well as using your beauty as a way to entice them to listen, which is, I think, a really, really inspirational thing you're doing, and I can encourage you to keep it up. We need people like you.
Thank you so much.
Well, Commander, thank you so much for being on Orthodontic Smiles podcast. I mean, this has been enlightening to me. I've never had the opportunity to interview a commander in the U.S. Navy, nonetheless one who is a beauty pageant winner. So I'd like to thank you so much for being on Orthodontic Smiles podcast. Good luck to you, and God willing, you'll come home soon and be with your family.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, Dr. Gonzalez.
This is your host, Dr. Ed Gonzalez. I want to thank you for listening to Orthodontic Smiles today. If you enjoyed our broadcast, please click the subscribe button. We'll be in touch with you in the future about our further broadcasts. Thanks for listening.